Hi, my name's Eric. I am with Iconic Flight. I'm also a captain of the Airbus 320 at a legacy airline here in the United States. And I was asked to review an overhead panel that is formatted for the Airbus 320 and connected into my flight sim. So we got this from Razordon. It is an Airbus 320 overhead panel. And we're just amazed at the quality of it. It's very, very sturdily made with the backlight switching and very tactile as you're pressing and flipping switches and stuff. We were pretty excited to get it loaded up. So the first and foremost, we had to figure out how to mount it because I wanted to, for me, being an Airbus pilot, I wanted to mount it in a more realistic way. So as you saw from the video, we were able to use this bracketing and mount it up against the wall to get it to look more authentic. The problem was I'm an Airbus captain, so I need it on my right. And unfortunately, with the way my simulator room is set up, without making modifications, which I think my wife would have problems with me nailing things into the wall, we decided to set it up in the FO configuration, the first officer configuration, which put the boards, the overhead panel over on the left. The mounting, we ended up getting to work. It was beautiful. And we got it all connected, got the wires all hooked up, and then came the most challenging part of any accessory into a flight simulator is getting it to actually work. So I'm going to turn that over to Landon, who did all the programming and got it all working. So what did you come across as you started trying to set it up?
So the piece of paper that it came with, it had a little QR code that you would scan, and it would send you to just a link of Google Drive that had a bunch of different files. It was just basic plug and play. It had all the legacy drivers that it came with. You just download them and run them on your computer. One thing I did notice though is that those drivers were kind of outdated in the sense I couldn't get them to play nice with either the Phoenix A320 or the fly-by-wire one, which exclusively were the two options. Like if you went into that QR code, there were two models listed for the A107.
Right, and I had some generic Airbus 320s, but they weren't compatible, so we had to download the Phoenix, and that worked great.
Yeah, who would have thought when you get the right stuff, it works together.
Exactly, when the company says you might want to use the Phoenix, and we did, and it actually worked better.
Yeah, but I mean, outside of that, as soon as I got the actual just generic software driver, it was literally just plug and play. Like I plugged everything in, it flashed for a second, open up the driver app. I think it's called just the Rowsfire app. Just that. Because
I know when I started playing with it initially, not knowing how it all went together, I didn't get it to work. But you have to start Microsoft Flight Sim. Mm-hmm. And then you start the other app?
Yeah, so you open up Microsoft Flight Sim, and that just kind of lets everything configure itself.
Right.
And then once that's running, then you open up the driver app, and then just press run, because when you have it plugged in, it'll actually auto-detect what specific model of the overhead panel you have.
You go back out to the desktop. You have Microsoft Flight Sim running. You go back out to the desktop. You start the other app. And then when you jump back into Microsoft Flight Sim, I think that was when all of a sudden the board came alive.
Yeah, you got your voltage indicators.
Right, the battery voltage indicators.
Yeah, all the switches started syncing up, all that stuff. So,
but we didn't have to do any of the program. It's not like with a normal joystick where you've got to go switch by switch and button by button and program and like with the thrust masters and stuff like that, which are fully customizable, but it can be very cumbersome to get everything set up. It's half the battle is getting it set up to work.
Yeah, for this, the keybinds just worked right out of the box. I feel like that probably comes with, the benefit of actually having it dedicated for a specific flight model versus just
and that's
here, buy this, you have it work for whatever.
Yeah.
But I mean, everything started working. All the position of the switches were there. Even there were the 2 position and then the 3 position. All those worked automatically.
Right.
All the numbers worked the way that they should. It was a pretty simple setup once I had the right driver.
Yeah, the driver was definitely the key. Definitely the key. And I know, as you saw in the reel on it, on me utilizing it. Very realistic. My biggest deal, I was trying to kick off scenarios and things to make some of these lights go off. And that was, having to use, what was that, iPad program?
Yeah, it was like the little Phoenix.
Yeah,
iPad.
the little Phoenix thing off to the side. It's very capable, and it just takes a moment or two to kind of start learning how to use it. Again, me flying the real aircraft, I kind of get wrapped around the axle trying to get this stuff to work the way it does in the plane. But you have to remember, it's a simulator, and it's meant to be fun, and people utilize it. I mean, they're groups of guys that have their own airlines, and they do all kind of stuff, day in, day out, and get just a wonderful airline experience from their house. So I enjoyed, once I started figuring out the Phoenix software, the little iPad, if you're in the cockpit and you look off to the left or right, depending if you're the captain or the first officer, there's a little iPad there, and it'll go through weight and balance, it'll go through setting up casualties and do different stuff. It's just a matter of learning how to do it. My biggest frustration was getting the flight plan in. And there is a way to use there's another software that you can download to bring in flight plan, but I didn't quite get that done.
SimPath or something like that.
Right.
But yeah, I mean that's not really related to the panel. That's just Microsoft Flight Sim.
Yeah, and we wanted just to test the panel out, so we didn't get wrapped around the axle on getting flight plans downloaded and stuff. So basically, I had to go in and just kind of do it the old-fashioned way, like we do in the airlines and the older planes, and actually hand jam everything in. I did like the Phoenix iPad because then it helped me get the weight and balance done. So when I was getting the performance data, because some of the columns are different because they're in kilograms, and sometimes you can change them to pounds, sometimes you can't. In the US, we work in pounds, and around the world, they work in kilograms. So other people might not have the same issues I did. But eventually, using that app, I was able to get the correct number. Because you don't have the correct numbers, the performance numbers won't go in. So once I had the correct numbers, got it working, and was able to launch, and away I went.
Yeah, I mean,
I tried to, I simulate an engine fire, and sure enough, the thing lights up, and you can start running through your checklist. I'm not sure in these online airline things. I'm sure they have procedures and the QRHs and things to give you what are the emergency procedures you're supposed to go through. And I mean, it's just an incredible learning tool. And for me, it's a learning tool to use getting ready for training. Now, obviously, it's not identical to an Airbus. It's smaller because it's meant for home use. But other than that, functionality-wise, it worked very well for its intended purpose. The layout of the switches and things, it really depends, because there are certain Airbuses where flipping these switches up is on, and then on other aircraft, down is on. Like right now, we have a little hodgepodge of both. Some are up, some are down, some are down, some are up. It kind of depends on which version of the plane and what airline it came from before it got merged in to our airline. But that's not that big of a deal. I mean, like I said, I'm used to dealing with switches going different directions. You just have to get in the cockpit, look up, and go, okay, seatbelt light on is up, or seatbelt light on is down. And so, or the same thing with the lights. Other than that, since it's not the complete overhead panel, there was a selection process that the company went through in selecting what switches are going to be represented. What I would look at doing, if I could change, is here where it says pack 1, pack 2, I would change that to bleed 1, bleed 2, because rarely am I ever touching the packs. I mean, maybe if you get a pack fault, you turn it off, let it reset, and run it again. But that's pretty rare. I would much rather have bleeds on and off, because that gives you some more tactile experience in other kind of casualties. One in particular, with the LEAP engines, the LRD situation, where if you have a bird strike and there's a fan that goes out and it gets completely out of balance, one of the major steps you need to do very quickly is getting the bleed off. Not the pack, but you want to get the bleeds off before smoke and stuff starts coming into the cockpit, or smoke starts coming into the cabin, either depending if it's bleed 1 or bleed 2. So that would be nice to have those represented over the packs, and that's just my personal preference. But other than that, the selection of what was there are pretty much a lot of the things you're going to be touching. And other than if it's not represented, well, then you can actually go to Microsoft Flight Sim and go up there and flip the switch if you need to. But I really enjoyed working with it. What kind of feedback do you have from any upgrades or anything different you'd like to see from the getting it loaded and getting it connected?
I think the only real thing would just be actually having the proper driver there, because they have their own app now that automatically senses whatever panel you have, and it does 99% of the work for you. All you have to do is literally just press run, and then it syncs all the way, versus having to go in and run through like 3 different legacy programs depending on which panel you get. Mm-hmm. But I mean, besides that, the panel was great. I mean, for flight sim stuff, it's on the cheaper end, so you can't be too picky with it.
Well, it's not a full size. It's not a full size cockpit. But again, for what it was designed to do, it does it. It really does it great. And if I were to have this and one or two additional things, I guess first and foremost, an additional would be the FCU, the flight control unit, it's the panel up here where it'll control the autopilot and your mode selections. If you're going on, if you're doing localizer, grabbing the localizer, doing ILS's autopilot 1 and 2, having that panel in a tactile would be great, because that's a panel you're touching a lot. And the only other panel, which would be really hard to do, would be a tactile MCDU, because that is very, very frustrating to be mouse clicking as you're trying to type. But that is a more complicated piece, I see. But the FCU, I think, would be a wonderful addition to this, because with the Thrustmaster throttle quadrant and the yoke, adding the FCU, that would just be a wonderful combination, and pretty much most of your tactile stuff would be taken care of, and then you can just focus on flying your flight plans and dealing with the casualties and stuff that you set up along the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's even for some of the stuff where the knobs are like 3D printed, it's not bad at all. I mean, the tolerances are great. Everything, like you were saying, very, very tactile. It has that Airbus push.
Right now,
sure.
and some of the button pushing, when you're dealing with an accessory plugged into a Microsoft Flight Sim and stuff like that, sometimes the connectivity is not as great, and so we have what's kind of called an Airbus push, where sometimes you need to push it and hold it and wait for a second and then go, or sometimes if you just do it quick, it'll work. It kind of depends. So that. I think that's more software driven than it is hardware driven. It's just, you just be patient. If for some reason you press something and it doesn't do it, then do it again. And hey, that happens in the real plane too. So,
if it doesn't work, push it again.
You do the air, but you give it a definite, give it a 1Z, 2Z, 1 potato, 2 potato, and make sure it actually does what you want. But other than that, it was a great opportunity to be able to go through and see how well it represents the cockpit that I work in. I appreciate the opportunity to do it, and look forward to any other accessories and things down the way that come out. I'll be more than happy to give them a try. So, do you have anything else to say?
No, I mean, it's fantastic. Lights look great. It's really fun to do. A lot of that fun from simulators is, simulating everything that happens in there, and it does it perfectly.
And of course, I know you're always using the Warthog and the A10, and he goes into all the heavy-duty fighter stuff, but I'm getting him slowly converted over to
It's a nice change of
airline.
pace.
It's a nice, yeah. We don't shoot planes down.
Yeah.
So it makes it a little more calmer, less stress. So,
But,
anything
yeah.
else?
No, it was awesome. I love being able to mess around with it. Once it started to work in the way that it should, it was a fantastic add-on. I would totally recommend it for somebody who's a diehard simulator.
I agree. All right. Well, thank you very much. And if y'all have any questions or anything, you can post them below. We'll get back to you as quick as we can. And if not, we'll definitely hand you off to the company, Razordon, to see what they have to say. So,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. So we've got Microsoft Flight Sim started up.
So, first thing you're going to want to do, you'll see that the panel isn't lit up, is once you have Microsoft Flight Sim open, you're going to want to go down to the Rowsfire app. You can get this by just going to the Rowsfire site. It's one of the drop downs on the left side, and it's literally as simple as pressing run, and then all those should light up, just like that. I'll just start putting stuff on so you can see the. There we go.
There you go, and that's what a fire test looks like.